Assalamu alaikum. Rahmatullahi barakatuh. Also, for those who are not Muslims, we welcome you here to an open discussion. My name is Nafis Abu Zaid, and this is my companion.
Isa Abu Isa, Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
And today we will do basically like a test run or an experiment dealing with the issue of, does Islam blind you from social ills? We will elaborate on what we mean by this particular topic. This is an open discussion, so we ask you all do not feel shy. Please place your comments in the comment section, and inshallah ta'ala we'll be able to respond back to them. But we want to touch on the understanding of whether or not Islam blinds you from looking at and acknowledging social ills and different types of social ills. Also, we want to try to touch on briefly why there seems to be a barrier between the real practical implementation of Islam and the also the people who have Islam in different regions, why they are not acting. Does that play a part in social ill as well? Inshallah. Yes, sir.
I mean, firstly, we'll go to the Anbiya. Did the prophets and the messengers mention or confront the social ills of their people? Yes. We have Shu'aib, alayhi salam, who dealt with the thievery and the cheating of his people in measurement. Not only did Allah mention it in the Quran, that social ill. Not only did Allah mention it, but Shu'aib dealt with it.
So it have to be addressed. Number one, social ills, some things that can be considered social ills, such as the brother mentioned, robbery, thievery, the way that people behave and interact as far as lying, cheating. Not only in interaction, social ills can be alcoholism, someone who drinks on a conservation, gambling, any social form. Also, more internal social ills can be racism. The way that can be addressed. Does Islam talks about racism? Does it have a remedy? First and foremost, Islam does not blind anyone from. We want to mention that to let you know that Islam does not blind. Actually, it addresses social ills and it brings the remedy for social ills as well. How to behave and interact as human race. How to behave and interact as brothers, sisters. How to behave and interact as neighbors. And these things like that, Islam touches on. In terms of alcoholism, in terms of gambling,
homosexuality is
a part of it. It touches on most of the things of dealing with social ills of today. That many of us, for some reason, when we come into Islam, we feel as though, especially the African American race, when they come into Islam, they feel as though they have to lose their racial identity to some extent, because it's like if you talk about it, then you seem nationalistic, or you seem pro-black, or even if a person is not African American, say for example, it can be Bangladesh, it can be from any ethnicity, or it can be from Russia and so forth. But once they talk specifically about their race and social ills that's in their people, amongst their people, it seems as if they are somehow going against the tenets of Islam. What do you think about
this the thing. The African American is a special case. I mean, most other people can talk about their people and be proud of their people, and no one calls them a nationalist. When I was living in the Middle East, the Arabs were very proud of who they were. And they had national days to celebrate who they were, and what they did in history, and what they became. But when we do it, not only are we shunned by the European also in this country, but our own people look at us like we're being nationalists. Just because I want to tell my son that we wasn't always in the ghettos. Because I want to tell my son that black people had kingdoms and kings and queens, that we came up with technologies, and we came up with open heart surgeries, and the ancient Egyptians, and all these different people who we have some connection to tribally. When I say that, I'm saying I'm being pro-black, meaning I'm trying to say blacks are superior. No, we're not saying that. No one is superior to those who have more taqwa, who has more fear of God. That's the one who's more superior. And that could be any color, any tribe, any place.
And just to touch on that real quick, first and foremost, Allah Jalla wa Ala, as we were discussing before, and you explained, Allah doesn't mention race in the Quran. He mentioned one human race. He doesn't mention white, black, brown, or red. Normally, the verse that Allah Jalla wa Ala refers to, he said, Ya ayyuhan nas, inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wal untha, wa ja'alnakum what? Shu'uban wa qaba'ila lita'arafu. Allah said, indeed, O mankind, addressing all of mankind, is one human race that we have created you from a single male, a single soul, and from her, this mate, meaning from a male and a female. We have created you and made you what? From a male and a female. And we have made you into tribes and different nations so that you may know one another. Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. Rather, the most blessed of you, more honor you in the sight of Allah is what?
It's the one that's more top, the one that's more fear of God.
But on top of that, Allah Jalla wa Ala is telling us that the human race is only one.
It's only one. If I need a blood transfusion, I get it from a white person. If I need something done with my heart or my body, I can trade body parts. We're not talking about permissibility of it. We're saying I can trade body parts with a Puerto Rican. I can trade body parts with a Chinese man. So that goes to show you that we're all
one race.
One race. And there's only 3 types of living classes of living creation that have the intellect that can think,
we know of.
That Allah mentioned to us. It's the angels, the jinn, and the human being. Allah never mentioned the human being as different races. Nowhere. Because we're not.
Henceforth, our beloved Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is reported to have said that no Arab is superior than a non-Arab, and no black is superior than a white, and nor is a white superior than a black. So we want to get that out there first to let the people know that, number one, when we talk about some social ills and social plights, we have to go back to certain classes and certain races because those things did happen and they have developed social ills amongst their kind. So we're not going to say that we're eliminating the fact that we're not pro-black, we're not pro-white, we're not pro-anything. We're just coming in explaining to you that, listen, this is where...
We're pro-human. We want humans to be better.
Okay, there you go. We're pro-human.
We're pro-human. We want the human beings to be better. And if anybody wants to say, and I'm going to say this, anyone wants to say, oh, we're being pro-black, listen, I'm an African-American, right? I'm Muslim first, no doubt. But I haven't lost my identity as Sheikh Mahmoud. I asked questions to Sheikh Mahmoud Mufti Amr in Egypt about me being Muslim. Do I have to lose my racial identity? That's the question I asked him. Do I have to lose my racial identity? He said no. As long as those identities don't go against a clear text in Islam, you can keep them.
Or things that is frowned upon.
Or frowned upon in Islam.
Then you can actually keep them as well.
So the thing is that I can keep the fact I like certain foods. I can keep the fact that I have certain speech. I can keep the fact that I have certain ways of dealing when I'm dealing with my people and we interact and the way we interact with one another. As long as there's not something, a clear text saying I have to stop doing that, even the dress code. You have some people say, oh, well, that's dressing hip hop or that's, we want to keep wearing jeans and this and that. Actually, listen, a thobe is not my culture. A thobe is a Middle Eastern culture. Yes, if you want to wear it to identify with Islam and to have Islam out in the open, I agree. I'm more comfortable wearing a thobe. I like wearing it. But it doesn't change the fact that me wearing a pair of slacks above my ankle, loose fitting, a button down, a blazer, and having my beard and stuff like that, that's my culture. I can wear those clothes. And I think the point the brother wanted to bring up is that Islam doesn't remove me from being a black man.
Well, not just that. It doesn't remove you from accepting any race that you might have. Islam doesn't remove that whole fact. It ain't just specific to black people. It's anybody. You can accept and embrace your culture. And as far as hip-hop culture, number one, has a culture in of itself. It has it has its own lingo. It has its own circumstances and attitude and outlooks and a certain dress. That don't mean that outside of hip hop culture, which by the way, outside of hip hop culture doesn't mean because you dress like the brother was mentioning, it goes against your Islamic identity. Now, for those who wants to take on the fact of wearing, the thobe and wearing the garments and stuff like that, there's nothing wrong with doing that as well if you're wearing it out of the fact that you want to abide by Islam or try to keep some type of Islamic identity. However, the problem comes in is that we believe that we have to dress a certain way, and we have to adopt certain other people's cultures in order to, identify with ourselves, and that isn't cool.
And we don't.
I'm not saying that it's good. That isn't, that isn't censored by Islam, and it doesn't make you a nationalist. So we don't want to keep sounding redundant going around the same issues, but we want to just bring up certain topics. Why is it we found that here, and especially in Philadelphia, because we're in Philadelphia, that most of the social ills that is predominantly amongst the, for example, from the Salafis, is that most of the ills that addresses them is because we believe that for some reason we have somehow skipped over the fact that we have to go back to our Pacific race and look at that. Where did it develop from? Where did it come from? How did it start? And in order to make that transformation, in order to, realize that we have to go back in the past and redefine that. So once we look at that, then we're able to address how we are, and why we are implementing Islam to its fullest, why we cannot get together. There's a concept out there that we all say, every one of us say amongst each other. When it comes to a certain group of people, they're like crabs in a barrel. This concept we always say that, they're like crabs in a barrel. They don't want to see each other. That's a social ill.
That's a social ill. You don't want to see somebody else get up. Because you'll find that one of the ways that this happened, and so far in my research, I said you always can, if you got any other research, you can type down in the comment section. One of the things that happened to us as a people is that when some of us were trying to get up, we were pitted against one another. The middle class, blacks who were doing well off, not only were we pitted against one another, that's number one. Number two, the people who had, and the people who had the money, and the people who had some type of ability to come back and teach their people, they didn't. There was no type of leadership in our communities. So they just left. And it's okay to live in a better neighborhood, but you're not going to go back and try to bring somebody else with you. That's the problem. So the cutoff happened there. So we find that even, we don't want to go too back into slavery, but we have to mention the fact, when the lynch letters and all those things, when the light and the black were pitted against each other. Light-skinned blacks and darker blacks in the house Negro in the field. All of that came and formed into what we call the crab in the barrel syndrome. Psychologically, you just passed it on like it's a divine legacy or something. You just passed this social ill on. And you'll find that the main ones who were passing on was the women. They were passing this anger on, this frustration on, because they had no way out of it. So they passed it on to their kids. So it just ate us up. And we just passed it on through the centuries.
Not leave it so bland like that. In other words, it's some people have some theories out there. There's some doctors, they explain that post-traumatic stress and how it affects others. So, when it comes to, if we're talking about a woman of African descent or African American descent, we explained that due to a lot of the trauma that they was, prone or experienced or have witnessed from their ancestors, their men being killed in front of them, they're being raped and their children being sold off and their men being sold off. And that left like a psychological or traumatic effect upon them, whereas though it began this process called transmission. And what happened is that the woman, because of that type of psychological effect with anybody, and anybody's, just seeing devastation, like even when we look in Syria, bombs being dropped down, or, some people will never forget that. Watching people being killed, and, it leaves a certain type of psychological effect. If you look at 9/11 and some of the things and the people that was there, and they witnessed that. People falling out the sky. It's still affected by it. They might even have to get treatment for it. So we can't say that, from the experts that deal with trauma, they explain that you never know how trauma might affect anyone. So when it comes to the African American woman, she's prone to latch out because of all of that have been stored up.
Well, one thing women do, they internalize a lot.
Exactly.
Women internalize a lot.
But it is stored up to the fact that the people that she's most close to, that she can get that frustration off on, is going to be normally the children. Because they're going to be the first line of defense defended, because the man is not normally there.
Well, the woman is the first madrasa, the first school.
Yeah, well, the concept, they are the first school.
Yeah, they're the first school. So whatever you're going to get from them, that's what you're going to pass on.
That's what you're going to pass on. So it is a psychological effect. Some people argue this argument that there is a traumatic post, that a post syndrome that had come down and they transferred over. The concept of dealing with welfare. This is another concept of social ill, in terms of why welfare was put in place.
Yeah.
These things you have to look at. What was the objective of welfare? The system of welfare. I mean, if you go into that, you'll find that you do research, you're going to find that those things was there. Islam doesn't block you and prohibit you from examining and understanding these particular issues. This is the point of the open discussion.
Yeah, open discussion. Yeah.
We want to try to challenge your mind to think that, okay, because you're thinking like that, does that mean for some reason you're going to a certain way, or you're becoming nationalism, and you're becoming, hateful or something like, or spiteful or vengeful?
I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna throw this out here. How are you not gonna do that? You have to find out why you feel the way you feel. You have to fill out why you say the things you say. You have to find out why that as an African American in America, because that's what we're talking about right now. And don't get me wrong, the black problem is an American problem, meaning that we don't mean just to deal with the African American problem, but the only way to to help America, we have to help ourselves first and get past it, because that way it helps the rest of America. Because the rest of America is affected by the black problem. That's just the reality. And we'll get into that at a later date, more in detail in that. As the brother was bringing up, you know, you got to look at psychologically as an African American. Why do you do the thing? Why you can't stay married? Why you can't stay in a relationship? Why you keep having kids out of wedlock? Why you keep doing the things that we do as black, that's specific to our neighborhoods? Why do they keep the ball keep rolling? It's psychological. It's mental. And the only way to get Islam to penetrate that, you have to turn the volume down. The noise have to get out. You have to open up the dam and let the water come out, and that we can fill it back up. Because if you don't do that, you don't turn the volume down, how are you going to hear what I'm saying to you? And it's all this noise in your ears. It's time for us to clean ourselves out.
Well, examples of such this transmission going on, it's found in Islam. And the problem is, when you look into the Quran, you're going to see this. And if you read and really reflect on the Quran, there's an issue where Allah Jalla wa'ala addresses both the Jews and the Christians in terms of, you know, refuting one another. Allah said that the Jews, they say to the Christians that you stand upon nothing. And the Christians say vice versa, that you stand upon nothing to the Jews. But then Allah says after that, وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ مِثْلَ قَوْلِهِمْ. And those who do not know, they say similar. But later on down that same surah, in that same page, Allah Jalla wa'ala mentioned that they say, وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ مِثْلَ what? قَوْلِهِمْ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ مِثْلَ قَوْلِهِم, meaning that they got it from the people that came before them. Exactly. This type of ideology, this type of concept.
So the transmission in Islam.
Exactly, that it comes down. That it goes down. Even when looking and addressing the people, and they would say, well, rather, we found our forefathers upon a certain way.
Exactly.
We found them in this way, so we're sticking to that particular way. So we know that the concept of certain things can be passed down.
So humans are social in nature.
Exactly. So to say that, for example, that for some reason this doesn't happen with a certain class of people, or not even a certain class, with anybody.
It happens to human beings in general.
Exactly.
It's a social issue.
It's a social issue that can come down. Islam does not blind you from that. Islam does not blind you from that. It gives you the cure, it recognizes it, and it addresses it. There's nothing that you will find in the Quran, except that if any social ill that the humans have, except that Islam what? Addresses it here.
Yeah, I'll give you a prime example of how a social ill was developed. How a social ill was basically almost created almost. Welfare. All right? And we're going to touch this. Me and my brother had a nice conversation about this. Welfare, for example. Welfare created a second-class babies people, meaning it created people who became basically babies. And we've been babied ever since then. We've been cradled and babied by the same people who have oppressed you and treated you a certain way.
In other words, it created a crutch.
It created a crutch.
Whereas they relied on others.
So the thing is that, and I don't believe that we should be babied anymore. I don't believe that. I believe that it's time to pull the tape off and teach us how to be men. But anyway, welfare, when it first began, Franklin D. Roosevelt in the Great Depression era, it was given to the white farmers and to the white workers who was losing their jobs. But it was given to the men. The men got it. And there was a movie a long time ago where a guy was a boxer, and it was showing how welfare was given to the white people. The women couldn't get it. The man went to the office and got it in his name, and he got the money in cash, and he came back and spent it on his family. When they switched it to us, and they came up with Planned Parenthood and all these different things like that, you'll see in their mission statements. This is what we don't understand. This stuff they didn't hide it. It's in their mission statements that it was to keep the black population down and to break the black families up, to keep them ever organized. So you'll find that welfare in its foundation, when it was given to us, was to separate our families from one another. What they did was they came in and said, okay, we give it to the women, not the men. So when they gave it to the woman, they told her, you can't have a male here. If you do, you lose your benefits. You have to make a choice between these kids' father and these benefits. She chose the benefits, a lot of them. Because what else they going to do? He wasn't making enough money to take care of everything, but they was giving her a job, they was giving her a home, they was giving her money for food, for clothing, schooling. That's something that this man couldn't provide as the government was providing it. So generations of that, this is how social ill came about. Generations of that, and time of that, what happened? The father was moved from the home. That starts a whole new level of social ills. Okay? The woman left the home.
Laziness has developed in terms of no eagerness. This is why they came up with more programs where it's okay, now if you're going to accept the welfare stipend, you have to go to school, or you have to go to work. Because they was finding that most of the people, they were relying on it and they would pass it down. So the mother would pass it to her daughter, the daughter in turn would pass it.
It becomes generational.
But the fact that we're not talking about the ruling whether or not it's permissible to accept it.
No, we're not talking
We're not talking about the fact that because welfare, actually, if you go back, it was set up by the Muslims. Muslims been set up from what we call the concept of Beit al-Mal and the concept of zakat. We know that that was there, but he's saying that in terms of if you look at the social ill and why it was brought about in America, you're going to see that it was something behind it. There was an intent behind it. It was an intent behind it. There was an agenda behind it in terms of different classes of people. And this is what he's trying to call your attention to, that you have to realize that there is a distinction in terms of dealing with, and we don't want to sound like, again, we already mentioned before as a disclaimer that we are not in no way racist. We don't believe in it. Islam doesn't condone it in no form or fashion. But we have to acknowledge the truth. The truth is that there is a distinction here in America between two groups of people, right? And that is people of color, okay? And that is the whites. There is a distinction. And we don't look at that because sometimes you're going to see that. In terms of when it comes to people of color that's black over the other people of color from the minorities, then you will find that the minorities will get more preferential treatment than those of the blacks. But the minorities still are in the same ball somewhat with the blacks. And addressing this issue no way, shape, and form denies our Salafiyah, or denies your Islam, or denies the teachings of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I give you a proof. Bilal, they don't call Bilal Arabic. What do they call Bilal? Ibn Rabah. What is it? Habashi. He didn't give up the fact that he was Habashi.
Salman al-Farsi.
Salman al-Farsi didn't get the fact that he was al-Farsi.
He was from Persia.
That he was from
Rumi.
Persia.
Didn't get the fact that he was from Rome.
Yeah, they compare. You know what I mean? You talk about Abdullah ibn Salam.
Yeah.
None of them gave up these facts of where they actually came from. What they gave up, though, alhamdulillah, that Islam came to the cure, they gave up those things and practice and cultures that was against what Islam actually stood for. You know what I mean? And that's what we need to. We need to give up all of those things that Islam is not for. You know what I mean? Celebrating holidays, birthdays, and all that stuff. We get into that later for those who understand Islam. That we don't do that. That's not a part of it.
Let me throw this at you. The only way that I believe that Islam is gonna, and you chime in. I'm throwing a question out there. You can answer. What do you feel about? How do we, for Islam to penetrate us? Do we have to get past the psychological and mental problems that have developed because of oppression and the things that was done, and the fact that the foot hasn't been off the gas yet? So the psychological and mental issues that developed because of those things wasn't there before. They developed over time. Is it a must that we get past those things before Islam can take full effect? Or we just have submitted? Have we believed yet, or we just submitted?
Well, one, from my understanding, my humble understanding, is the number one you have to look at. You have to confront the past. You have to confront the past. You have to see where it came from. Because we believe that, like you said, we have to go back in the past and confront those psychological effects, see where they came from. We have to confront the sociology effects and see where that came from, the social ills, where that came from. Once we confront that, once we understand where it comes from generally, I think we can better move on. Because now we know what it was designed for, what was its purpose. Now we see that what it created.
And now we know the medicine for, because we know the sickness.
Well, we already have the medicine for, which is Islam. The problem is we're not utilizing Islam to actually eradicate that stuff. We're not. We're still doing things that are have been programmed and have been passed down to us. We're still having those same type of habits.
So it's like trying to take medicine for a disease you don't know you got one. You don't know what the disease is.
Well, exactly. You're still trying to escape the fact that you have social ills that you already had before embracing it.
You don't even want to accept it. You don't even accept the fact.
And the fact that you're still trying to say to yourself and convince yourself that, you know, I can get better spiritually, but somehow you're not going to get better spiritually without, you know, going back and understanding your particular yourself, your people. You have to understand where that came from. It was transmitted down. Why is my mother the way she is? Why is my father the way she is? I remember Sheikh Fawzan, he had brought a beautiful point about a diet. He said there are 5 things you have to look for when you look into a caller, right? And one of the things he mentioned, interestingly, is looking into where he come from, his nasab. You know what I mean? How he was raised. You have to go back to that because that plays a part on his or her outlook on life.
It does.
It plays a part.
It plays a part. It
So,
really does.
so if you have to acknowledge that, then it's saying that it's a disservice, and it's from unintelligence not to acknowledge the fact that, okay, your skin color is black, and here you is not looking to the fact that where you come from. as a people.
Well, it's funny because they really we're the only ones who kind of really don't do that. It's like a almost we almost made a haram on ourselves to care for our people and look back at our reality and try to fix it. It's like almost haram to say let's help our people. It's almost haram to say amongst us to say as if Salafiyya negates that fact, and fact is the total opposite of that.
Well, I don't believe that we actually say it's haram. Some people do, but I believe that's been psychologically.
Yeah, I said it's almost we asking you say that.
Yeah, I believe that there's a psychological.
Oh yeah, it is.
The reason
that's
why
part of the psychological problem.
We're programmed not to talk about that.
That's part of the problem. That's part of the problem. If we don't talk about it, we're going to keep on having these high divorce rates. You know why? Because you can't put two people in a room. Both of them are sick and expect for a cure to happen. You can't.
Well, that's another social ill in terms of.
That's a social ill.
You got to look at the fact that
relationships and things like that.
Not only that, it's just you got to look at how many of us come from single parent homes versus two parent.
From what I learned so far, at least like 60-something% come from single parent homes.
All right, so now you have to look at what does that bring.
Yeah.
A single parent versus two parents.
Yeah.
That plays a part too. This is studied in sociology.
Yeah.
You have to look at what does that bring. Now you have to look at the upbringing of those two particular people that you're bringing together. All right.
Yeah.
Ibn al-Qayyim alludes to this fact too when he talks about both of the spouses having the same faith. Plays a major role in raising up the children, giving them proper tarbiyah. Understanding that when one of the spouses have more spirituality or more character than the others, you know what I mean. In those terms, you get what I'm saying. It plays a part. So you start tugging war and you start pulling at each other like that because you're saying the one who's predominantly have the religious setting, you know what I mean, the religious morals and stuff like that, you know, and the ones who don't have the immorals, it would affect the child. So you have to look at all of those things before we just say, okay, the divorce rate is happening amongst the Muslims and the non-Muslims at a rapid rate.
Yeah.
It's not just happening with the Muslims. This is already proven. It is already statistically understanding that the divorce rate, period, when the women start entering the work fields, the divorce rate went up. It wasn't counting the statistics of the Muslims. It was counting the statistics amongst the non-Muslims.
Yeah, we know that.
Okay, so those things they affect both groups of people.
Differently though. I'm gonna say differently because if you go in the suburbs, which I used to live in the suburbs, my foster parents, you go in the suburbs, their divorce rates are not that high, not as high as the blacks, African American Salafi divorce rates are. That's number one. Number two, they keep double parent households. They do. They keep double parent households. And like you said, that has a great effect on the mind of a child and the mind of the neighborhood and society at hand. Because you go to those neighborhoods, and okay, we can get into the fact that the education and the money and stuff like that plays a part too. That we don't have access to some of the same things they have. But living in a dual parent household, and most of the block was like that. The crime was low. There wasn't much noise. It was the way that it moved was very. It moved towards. It was a very positive movement in their way of thinking and the way they were, and it wasn't chaotic as far as the family structure. Because they got their being non-Muslims and things like that. There were things there obviously that were out of pocket. But as far as the family structure went, that family structure and that concept keeps those neighborhoods glued in and keep producing graduate after graduate after graduate after business owner after CEO. But you go into our communities, we're not producing those type of people. And one of the main reasons why we're not doing that is not because of tribe, it's not because of color, it's because of the social ills that exist and the love that they do.
I agree to a certain extent. You know why? Because, okay, both co-parenting, when you talk about the double parenting homes from the non-Muslims and how their kids are still going, because they still keep the same agenda. That haven't broke.
Yeah, they haven't broke.
They still have the same objectives to be, okay, we can't get together personally on that level. But you know what? We still want to work towards the betterment of our child.
And we don't.
So we're going to sacrifice this much to make sure that agenda is still carried out. I think with us, we somehow lose that. Once we
fight each other.
Once we're done, then everything else is
done.
The goals are done. The goals are done. The objectives are done.
You're
the planning and all that stuff takes place. It's like, okay, now we're both tug of war. So you might find one spouse more religious than the other, and they're like, okay, I want to take I want to take the child, and then either he or she not financially stable to take the child, or he or she some reason of why they can't take the child to actually, you know what I mean?
Well, we're psychologically trained to turn on one another anyway. you do it automatically. And so you'll find that a lot of times when we get divorces or we separate from our spouses and stuff like that, there's kids involved, and like it turns to the courts, it turns to bloody battles. Like I said, I was in Elkins Park, Pennsylvania with my foster parents, and I've seen that even when somebody got a divorce, how the father still came over, how the kid didn't. He was affected by the divorce, obviously. You can't not be not affected by a divorce of your parent.
I mean, bring that point.
Yeah,
See,
no
the
doubt.
The children are always going to feel some.
But they kept this concept of these goals in line. It's just the way they did it was amazing to me. They just kept, no matter what was going on, he's going to school, and I'm his father, and that's his mother, and we're not going to tug and war him. And they didn't. They just kept walking the same
now
line.
that you brought this up, brother, we got to look at it from both sides of the spectrum. Now we got to be fair, because a lot of the men aren't taught to be proper men, and this is where you got to go back from single parent homes. How many men have examples, well, male examples of mentors in their life?
None of us
are allowed to be
yeah,
responsible. And then now you have the woman; she has to come in and play multiple roles.
Yep.
You understand? She already has a disadvantage.
And roles that she don't necessarily know how to play.
Okay, roles, no, not that she don't necessarily know how to play. It's not her role to
It's
play.
not her role, yeah.
But she's forced
Yep.
by circumstance to play that role.
Yep.
You understand what I'm saying? So in that case, that frustration have to carries over. So now there's some resentment on the half of the woman towards the father,
Yep.
and it might be rightly so.
Yeah.
The point is that it might be rightly so. That's the point.
And it causes all types of other chaos.
The point that it might be what? Rightly so, in terms of it. So we have to be, you have to be fair on both sides of the spectrum. You have to be fair on both sides of the spectrum, as to say, okay, the black race somehow, when it comes to parenting, they don't keep up the same objective, the same goals, and it's destroyed and so forth. Well, there is blame on both parts, the father and the mother, because they both don't understand. They might didn't have proper training of how to be, good parents. Nobody comes out with a manual of being a good parent. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, they don't.
No one comes out, and say, this person is a good parent and this person is a good parent, and here's a manual. This is how you be best parents. No one say that. You know what I'm saying? So you have to take that in consideration.
Yeah, you do. You do. And I mean, you would think things like this are so easy to be good parents and things like that. But if you're not brought up on those issues, it's not easy. It's hard when you're not brought up on those issues. It seems easy because it seems easy for people that's brought up in that environment because that's all they ever known. But when you're brought up in chaos and confusion, if you don't stop yourself, and this is what I told the brother a few days ago, what we're trying to do is get people to, I don't want to use the word face because we face our reality every day, but start understanding our reality and kind of as people, it's going to take a real manhood and womanhood to go in yourself and say, okay, I hear what the brothers are saying, and say to yourself that there's going to be an inward battle, it's going to be an internal struggle. I'm letting you know right now, it's going to be an internal struggle from experience. It's going to be an internal battle, internal struggle for you to finally get past yourself and get past what was done to you. And once you do that, psychologically and mentally, you're going to feel lighter physically, you're going to feel lighter emotionally, you're going to feel lighter mentally, and you're going to be a better parent and a better wife or a husband. I'm telling you. But if you don't do it, if you keep on pointing the finger and you keep on not realizing that something's wrong, you're going to, not on purpose, you don't mean to hurt your children, you don't mean to hurt people around you, but you're going to do it.
Well, not only that, Islam is not going to take the necessary effect that it needs to take.
Exactly.
And you're going to
too much noise in your ears.
You're going to prevent Islam from really taking the effect that it needs to take on you.
Yeah.
And you're going to prevent the fact of why I'm not really benefiting from the religion of the level I need. Somehow we have transmitted to the fact that, okay, we can wear the guards.
We
can wear the throws. We're okay with
the
that.
black, all of that.
We're okay with the terminologies. We're okay with the slogans. We're okay with certain books. Okay, we didn't transform our house to that level. We know that we have to take from the machines.
No.
That part is there. But when you start going to the internal part, it's still having clicked over.
It's tough.
We do it outwardly, but
tough.
we still have these certain types of understanding, like the backdoor concept. We don't want to do the proper channel. When we want to get married, they gives us an okay, brother and sister, you got to go to these steps to get married. We're going to find a way to get around that. You know what I'm saying? Even with Allah Jalla wa Ala talks about the issue of marriage and divorce. That talaq is 3 times. So what people normally do, what they try to do, they have come up with a practice, because was asked this question and addressed it, that they would come up with a practice that on the 3rd talaq, they will hire someone to marry their wife, the ex-wife. They consummate, then they get divorced, and then they go back and marry. So people will always look for a way of getting around the issue, skirting around the issue, because these are certain illnesses that someone might have inside them. So we turn to other things. So we have to understand why Islam is not taking we know it's the solution, we know it's the answer. You know what I'm saying? But why isn't it taking effect?
Well, the thing is, man, you know, from the men and the women. I mean, you just brought that concept of marriage up. Inside the marriage itself, when problems arise, when the Prophet Salam, when Sheikh Al-Dini was saying that, that a man or a woman, talk about the woman first, that she should take the hand of her husband, even if she's oppressed, yada, yada, yada. These certain steps that's taken, even a man, leave the bed, don't eat the food, these types of steps. But we go right around, backdoor all those steps. And we just get khulafs and we get divorced and stuff like that. All this stuff, this backdoor concept the brothers bringing up, all of that stuff is that we're just very, we're very trained to say, I don't need you. I don't have to deal with you.
Well, now that you brought that up, is that a trained psychological? Is that passed down?
You know what I mean?
The concept, is that designed so that the woman can say, you know what, I'm co-independent of a man?
Yeah, welfare. They did it with welfare. They did it with welfare.
So with the concept of, you believe that?
I believe welfare helped that.
All right, so for a woman in that case to have that problem, to think that she don't need a man or she's co-independent, because her Islam doesn't teach us that.
No.
Her Islam doesn't. Islam proves against that.
To be patient, to stay married,
and all that, right? How would she be able to take the cure?
I mean, this is what we're trying to talk about here. How does she take the cure? Number one, like I said, she has to, without her realizing that she's sick, you have to go back. This is what the brother keep mentioning. Until she goes back and look into reality, how we ended up like, how did our women end up like this? How did you end up like this? And she's not going to be able to medicate it because she don't think anything's wrong with what she's doing because she's never seen anything other than that. And she, even in her neighborhood, and her mother, and her aunts, she's always seen them bounce around. She's always seen them, I don't need this dude, I'll jump to somebody else.
You can do bad by yourself.
I can do bad by yourself. All these satanic slogans. But the reality is that it's for us to stay married.
Well, all the slogans I understand why you're saying satanic because it's breaking up the core of unity.
Yeah.
The core of marriage.
That's what I mean by that satanic. I ain't saying shit actually said the statement.
Yeah.
I'm saying that the statements are evil and they lead to evil. And so we have
divided society.
They divide the society. And we have to start letting our women know, number one. Another second thing we got to start doing, let them know that we do care, that we have some concern for them. We got to stop throwing them in the trash too. We got to stop doing that. We got to stop throwing them in the trash. Okay? Meaning, if you're married right now, to African American woman, you're African American, and if you can be patient with the situation, be patient with the situation. I mean, I'm saying is that
being patient with the situation, y'all still gotta go back.
You gotta know what's wrong.
Do the counseling yourself. Y'all both should go back and do some research. There's nothing wrong with looking back into the issue. Go back and acknowledge. If you have to take some acceptance, acknowledge the fact
on both parties.
On both parties. Like, look, I was not raised in the best of manners, but now Allah bless us here with a child. So let's see what best things that we can do as parents, no matter whatever happened to our relationship on a personal and intimate level.
What can we do?
What can we do to make sure that this child has a better
instead of fighting one another to death?
But that stuff is programmed. And if we can see that this program and that is designed, then maybe we have a better chance of fighting. And this is the point of addressing those social ills and going back to it. Inshallah ta'ala, this doesn't mean, for example, that we're calling you away from the solution base that is found in your religion, Islam. We're not telling you not to look at the solution base. However,
you can't see this. You can't go get the solution from Islam if you don't know what the sickness is. I mean, I'm saying is that we have the solution right here. The Quran has all these issues we talk about mentioned in the Quran. But if you don't think you're sick, you're not going to take the Quran and dissect it and use it for that illness that you have. You're going to read the Quran, and all you're going to see is, I don't want to go to hellfire. I don't want to go to Jannah. I got to pray 5 times. You're going to look at all the Tashri'at, which is part of the cure, obviously. It's part of the cure.
So when the Quran came down, you had the Arabs at the time. They had social ills.
They did.
And they had a lot of stuff that was passed down from their ancestors. The practices that they kept going on that was embedded in them. For example, the incident of the hadith of that mentioned when the hadith mentioned this comes in the 4 principles. When they was recently accepted Islam, they seen that the Jews had a tree that they were handing their weapons on.
Exactly.
Right? So they say, Ya Rasulullah, make us ij'ala that's what, right?
It was a social ill.
Yeah, make us a tree just like they have a tree so that we can hang our so we can hang our weapons onto this. Right? In this particular hadith, we see that they recently came into Islam, even though what they said was kufr. Even though what they said was disbelief,
right.
but that social ill was still carrying on, but that practice was still there, right? But it seemed like Islam did something different to help affect the people. It attacked it from three perspectives, from what I observed. It attacked the heart first. It eradicated those things from the heart.
Like shirk and kufr.
And stuff like that, right? And pulling you away from your ancestral ways that was practiced that was incorrect. Then it eradicated, then it dealt with the physical. Because after the heart, then came the physical and say, make the prayer 5 times a day, give to God, make wudu, and doing things like that. And then it affected the spiritual, which was all incorporated with that.
No,
and then which in turn affected society.
Yep.
Would that same remedy will help out with the
well, it's a divine remedy, so it works for everybody. It's a divine remedy. And the Arabs were humans. Allah took the Quran down, Ya ayyuhan nas. Ya ayyuhan nas ubudu rabbakum. Allah said, oh mankind, worship your Lord. So it's a divine remedy. The Quran and the Sunnah is a divine remedy. So the steps need to be taken is number one, before you try to put lipstick on a pig, excuse my analogy, you want to throw thobes on it, you want to throw niqabs on it, with all this stuff on it, which we should do. Some of these things are obligatory that we have to do.
Yeah, but we're not saying that the woman is a pig.
No, we're not saying it. I'm just, excuse me, it's an English terminology. Meaning, when you dress up something, you got to clean it up. I'm not going to put on brand new clothes. I ain't took a shower in a week.
Well, that concept does come in Islam. It's called, they talk about tahliya before, cleaning up, tasbih, what's all the cultivation and pure, cleaning up first before you can actually bring about.
The Lord cleaned the Sahaba up. The proof is that he didn't make alcohol around them in the beginning. He slowly cleaned them up.
Gradually.
Then he gave them the rules and regulations. Exactly. So we have to turn the volume down.
Buried in info.
They're doing the same thing people doing now. Abortion. They're doing the same stuff.
Yeah, they was buried. They info. I mean, well, they probably wasn't committing abortion.
Yeah. They were born and they was killing them.
But these was social ills.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A lot of them had like practices that was done.
And the Quran has ayahs talking about burying the young girl.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's
taqwid. So even in those terms, right, or even looking into that, we have to say, for example, our people have a psychological effect that's on them. How do we get them to acknowledge that and staring at the ugly truth without them feeling so we're bringing up old things? So you might have someone say, okay, a talk like this, a discussion like this is all good and well, but it can lead to so many different things. So I read out a hikmah, a wisdom not to go down that route. You're going to have someone say that. You're going to have other people say that talk like this can promote nationalism. If you have someone come back and say another talk like this can might promote the fact that y'all going around Islam. Islam didn't tell the Arabs to go back to the ancestors. Someone could argue that.
No.
So if you're saying that we have to go back and look to our psychological and look back at our people first in order to deal with the remedy, how come Islam didn't give that to the Arabs? How do we respond to something?
This is the thing. Like, I'm responding to it like this. Number one, the Quran did mention the fact that our ancestors had an effect on the people. Why did Allah keep saying, and we only follow what our ancestors did? Why did Allah keep mentioning that? Why did Allah keep mentioning? Because it does play a role. The fact that Allah kept mentioning throughout the Quran about the past nations, about what they were doing. Allah kept taking us into the past. So how I'm not going to go there? That's number one. Number two, I think it's time to, like I said, tear the Band-Aid off. The baby time is over. I personally believe.
The crutches.
It's time to get a mirror and put it right in front of our people and say, look, this is a problem. And once we do that, we have to now then teach them to turn the volume down. Once they can turn the volume down, I think, a little bit, then they can start listening to us. At first, they're going to be apprehensive, maybe. People are going to be like, because people don't want to be told they have issues. Person doesn't be told that, oh, the reason you're like this because you've been beat up. What you mean? Ain't nobody put their hands on me, nobody put their paws on me. No, we talking about psychologically, you've been beat. I don't care how many fights you can win, you haven't won. Because psychologically, you lost a long time ago. And until you get past the psychological problems, I think, let's talk about in general in our lives. You growing up, when you grew up in Richard Island, I grew up 29 from Cumberland. Did those neighborhoods and what happened in them, what happened to us, play a role into our adulthood? That's just us. There's no doubt about it, shit. You cannot get around the fact that growing up in that mess had an effect on our childhood and as adults. And the only reason that we were able to get some form of spirituality and some form of religion is because Allah had some ni'mah and some rahmah with us to a certain degree.
Well, Abu Race Rahimahullah, he made a good point. He said that, and he was talking about Salafiyya, and it's on his tape that he dealt with the talk he gave on Salafiyya. Salafia is the best way, and so forth like that. And in this talk, he mentioned a good point. He said that the only remedy and the only cure that we got to get away from all of this mess is Islam. You know what I mean? Even Malcolm X alluded to that fact where he said, I believe that what will cure the racism here in America, you know, will be Islam. If the people of America would accept Islam, I believe it'll cure. It will cure the racism. You know what I mean? So we see that in terms of faith, and we're going to talk about that later on. You know, we'll go into a discussion base of series of episodes of dealing with this topic head on. And we will show that faith always played a part in bringing about change. No matter whether you want to call it Christianity, no matter whatever you want to call it, the fact of a core belief always played a part of bringing about change and unity. There's nothing stronger than faith. There's nothing stronger than belief. Okay, this is something that's always mentioned even amongst the experts who could call themselves intellectuals and so forth. They still see that this is something that they cannot actually explain away. You know what I mean? They have to realize that that core thing that which brings people together, that core thing that which makes a person resilient, that core thing that which makes a person